Thank you. I will call us to order. I'm Christy Racinas. You are at the Capital Interpretive Exhibits and Wayfinding Subcommittee, August 28th. Senator Landon is excused today. However, I have Representative Sherwood and Representative Nicholas and Treasurer Meyer to help me to help. So I think we have a relatively short meeting today where we are mostly receiving updates and reviewing work that has been done since we met last. And so with that, I will turn it over, I suppose, to DI. Welcome.
I'll be playing the part of Rachel Julo today.
Okay.
I'm sorry to disappoint everyone. She's also excused today. Thank you all for having us. Great to be back. Two new faces, not to the project, but first time callers today. Meg and Christina, so are live and in person. You may have seen them on some calls, and for those of us that are in the throes of this on a daily basis, you know them very well. But yesterday was the first time on site, so they oohed and awed for a little bit. Thank you for the tour, Wendy.
And Madam Chair, I would just maybe do a little bit more of an introduction. Is a lot of the behind the scenes on all the content that you see is Christina was the final eyes on that. And then Meg, all the cool things that you're gonna see later this morning in the civics lab. She and Nigel have gotten to have a lot of fun with trying to make a Capitol feel like a cartoon. And so it's been fun for Meg's creativity on there as well.
Great. Well, welcome.
As stated, just a bunch of reviews to start off today. You want to go to the next slide? So our quick agenda is really just talking about what we've been doing in the Capitol thus far and over the last month. So lots of optimization on signage and wayfinding. Whatever's in the Capitol, trying to make sure that that's as great as it can be. There are package 3 things being installed and coming online as we speak. There's been a lot of behind the scenes work on UX UI design and anything that happens on the screens for the kiosks and such. So been deep in the throes of that. And then we're going to do a little bit of a new look for us for this meeting. We're gonna do a little field trip next door and walk through where we are with the civics lab. So what you're gonna see in the civics lab is the working model of what the civics lab may be. It's going to be a lot of green tape on the painter's tape on the wall, and but it's a good how the sausage may look. We don't typically get to do this in projects, so it'll be fun for you guys to experience. Kick the tires a little bit. So anything else from our team? Okay, awesome. There's a couple folks online that I'm going to probably kick to. It'd be Cassie and Nick King. Are they on and I think they have to be.
Yeah, Rick, I'm here.
Oh, Cassie, you're here. Okay, great.
Yep,
do you want to talk about the oh, sorry. You go first. Yeah.
I just want to put this in again to remind us that all the sausage making is part of what we're doing here, but ultimately the goal is this is the people's house and we're making it more accessible, helping people to understand the richness that is here for them, that it's built for them, and that everything we do here is based and focused on them. So just, I know we used to lead a lot of these presentations with this slide for months and months, and it's not popped up for a while because we've been sort of in the weeds, and I want us to get back up at like 10,000 feet and just remind us all why we're doing this. So let's get back in the weeds.
Optimization. So we'll turn it over to Cassie and Nick, who are back in Kansas City, to give you a bit of an update about where we are with things happening in the building. Cassie?
Yep. So as you can see, we're currently in the optimization phase of the exhibits that were installed in the middle of July. So some new elements that you'll see on each of these exhibits include, but aren't limited to, additional signage for the Portraits of History making sure that that step is seen. And then also some FCOs over the staged vault, really bringing attention to that exhibit and making the visitor intrigued to look inside the vault. Additionally, you'll see some of the signs that we are thinking of exchanging for more permanent signage with different sizes and different leg options versus the Carly Wood legs, just making that overall consistent throughout the Capitol with the Julius Bloom legs you see in this first photo. So lots of things are happening. We're in the final phases of these exhibits, and it's a win-win solution for everyone.
Wendy, is it safe to say that the kiosks that have the taped printed maps on top of the existing maps are the ones that we're looking at switching those out for those? I got a couple questions while I was here yesterday about it, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Madam Chair, there's one location here in the extension, 2 locations in the garden level, and 1 location at the south entrance of the first level that we for months and months and months have struggled with how to adhere the really heavy bronze to the base itself. And what they're finding is they're assigned bronze signage of that size is not easy to put on there without a whole lot of visible fasteners is what we call them, but basically screws through the whole thing. So DI has come up with a methodology, and I'm actually looking at Representative Nicholas because this was the sign that you see was one that was also going to be on a big base. And the reason those other ones have not been printed yet and you still see temporary signage is they're just too heavy. So the solution that was developed for both the east and west of the first level is what DI has developed for those signs in those locations. And how they do that is they go to a slightly smaller sign. And there's actually a lot of advantages to that because anyone looking at that signage is coming right up to it anyway. They're not looking at it from the distance for the size that it is now. There have also been some complaints of the one, especially on the first level, that it's your first, you walk into the Capitol and it's the first thing you see and it is very large.
Very large.
So in some ways it was really great that we had not come to a resolution on that because this is going to allow for smaller signage, but still very readable because people are really walking right up to them. They're not looking at them from 10 feet away. They're walking up to them and experiencing them there. So it will give a much smaller footprint. The other advantage is then it puts all of your signage on those Julius Bloom legs in both interior and exterior. And we actually have some ways we think we can reuse the existing bases for some other exhibit work related to the 250 or perhaps over at the State Museum to promote coming over to this site. So that's still in process, but we just wanted to bring to your attention that that's the reason those signs have not been installed yet. And it actually was probably fortuitous in the end.
Did they try JB Weld on that?
What's that?
JB Weld, did they try doing?
No.
I mean, I actually put JB Weld on a engine block one time, filed it down, gasked it off, and ran it for 500 hours. So it's good stuff.
Well, and Mr. Treasurer, part of what would have had to happen if we had pursued the size that they are in bronze is we also would have had to, and you might have to help me here, DI.
Yep.
We would have had to route out the existing wood blade that we're calling it and put metal in there. Then it would have had to be epoxied and then still 6 screws through the entire thing. And by the time it was all done, it probably wasn't gonna
leftover stuff
look great.
Well, I'm sure we have some of that laying around the shop, so we'll.
They're done.
Yeah.
There's a cleaning route here.
Yeah.
From a communication standpoint, the other benefit is that now we are clearly distinguishing between wayfinding and exhibit work. So there's no sort of confusion. You see that base and feel, oh, there's something more, and it's just a map.
Yeah, Madam Chair, one more item to note that DI you're seeing is some SCOs above the stage vault treasures of the past. And what we are recognizing is that the stage vault experience is so popular that visitors are now opening all of the vaults and expecting, and then
Yes.
And then it's a little downer when there's.
and I
Miss them.
openly joke and like, that one has the Christmas tree and they don't believe me. And I'm like,
The cleaning
"That was
equipment?
supplies."
Mhm.
And I was like, it's around the corner. And they're like, yeah, it says, south, but I don't know what direction I am underground. So we need some identification that's like the one that has the lettering above the door. So it's very popular. Now we're now having every vault door open. So we are like, we need to identify in a much more visible way to communicate. It is this vault. That is it, because people actually love that, but they can't find it and they get lost underground with our language.
And Madam Chair, the other nice thing about that is then your three essentially more interactive exhibits in the garden level all have a naming convention of Foundations of Progress, Portraits of History, and Treasures of the Past had been your preferred name. And then you elected at the time to say, oh, we probably don't need to name this, but we really do. So all of those have just kind of a nice way for the docents to explain, here are our three main exhibits down on the garden level.
Cassie, any other updates before we move on?
Nope, I think between both Wendy and Rihanna, all of those points that we talked about earlier this week have been touched.
Great. Any questions? Anybody in the room or online? I'm gonna make a bit of a hard pivot here, so I just want to make sure. Okay, great, thank you. Christina, I think you're gonna walk us through kiosk updates.
am.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for having me. Thrilled to be here. I've been on the project for almost a couple years now behind the scenes, and I hail from the great state of Utah. And so there's been a lot of overlap, and I feel like I'm getting to know my neighbor better than my home state. Like, I don't know what the state flower is in Utah, but I can tell you what it is. So we have a couple updates here for the kiosks, the Constitution kiosk. This is just, we're giving you today a preview of the Constitution kiosk at 100%. Thank you so much for all of your feedback and input. That one was a bit of a bugger with all the legalese, and I really appreciate your input getting that to a place. We're looking to install the Constitution kiosk early September, and we are going to deploy before Constitution Day, but have it ready for that Constitution Day on September 17th. We want to show you on the next slide just a rendering of what this will look like. I can't see without my glasses.
Let me catch you up here. The desk bill. The desk bill is in progress. The same folks that have made all those, the Carly with the basis for all the exhibits are building this. It's gonna be a gorgeous piece of furniture. So that's in the process of being built right now. The interactive, like Christina has said, is approved, it's completed, but we're undergoing extensive testing at DI to make sure that all the bugs are figured out. Well, the Constitution replica pages, I left them in the lab. I'm gonna run and get them while
I'll get them.
so we can see what those look like. We're making a replica of all the pages of the Constitution that would display in the case to the right here, where my little mouse is on, to the left, with a little where my mouse is on. But we have all the pages, so on different days you can show different pages from the Constitution and highlight different moments in the calendar year. And as Christina just said, the installation will be prior to Constitution Day. Any questions about that while Rick goes and gets the printouts?
Sure, Madam Chairman. So I can mention as part of the Capital Committee working on the 250th events and lead up events, we have a Constitution Day event planned, and it will feature a welcome and introduction by me. Excited. And during that, I will talk about the Constitution kiosk and encourage visitors to go and view that after the presentation. We'll have remarks by Justice Gray, and then the governor will be sharing some remarks regarding Constitution, US and Wyoming. Have a light reception, and then as mentioned, have people go up and look at that kiosk. We originally planned to use the historic Supreme Court as the space for that, but just given when the governor agreed to be a presenter, we decided to go ahead and move that to the auditorium just to have ample space. But we look forward to promoting that. And it will get another shout out during Equality Day in December, which is another lead up event that committee is working on.
So here's some samples. They don't feel like ancient paper, but they look, they'll be behind glass. And
You guys pass through.
Okay.
Flip through those.
So these are directly from the high resolution scans that the museum did of the actual document.
While they're perusing those, I think we can move on to the next slide. We're just gonna give you a glimpse of like each portion of the activation. So this first one will show you what the historic constitution will look like. Will it play?
Yeah. Oh. Here we go. It's playing on my screen, but obviously not on there. Hold please.
Hey Nigel, did you, I think last time we had to email it to the Gmail account and never it from the computer. Do you have those links or?
I can just email the PDF and it's in the PDF, the links are there.
Try it there. Maybe we should move on and we can try to,
Do that later.
yeah, we can try to have, Clay and I can try to get it working. Okay, nice.
Do you decipher it all?
Oh, she's looking at the judge.
Okay.
They'll be like,
Both of
but
them.
it's just as these.
Well, does everybody want to do our field trip to the civics lab while we work through this? I think some of the, most of the rest of our agenda was plain, it's most of the user interface design, so it's plain video, so we'll have to get this worked out before we.
Madam Chair, did you want to go through all of the other elements though in the civics lab that aren't video based before we tour? Sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Do you want, like are you talking about that, sorry, Wendy, are you talking about the micro interactives and stuff?
Yeah, and the style guide and just generally an overview of what they'll be seeing.
All that in there.
Yeah, I mean, all of that stuff is part of the room, inside the room. So the color palette, over the process of the last few months, the subcommittee have made a lot of choices and decisions about the color palette, the design system, all the types and styles of interactives. The content outline's been thoroughly developed and refined. And all that stuff is in process, and the best way to sort of appreciate where we are in that process is to go into that room. We've got a number of things taped up on the wall in the area that give you a sense of how the color works throughout the room. I can show you here in the deck. Let me show you just an overview of the.
Madam Chair, Nigel, I think what we could do is if we just show your notes. That way we have it documented as part of the meeting and then we can go over and take a look too. But if you kind of see the slides and he walks you through and then we go through it, we'll have that included. Do you have those in this slide deck?
I've got some notes, but very, very limited. Let me go through what we have here. And I think that'll get you sort of to a good point for us to move over to that space. Again, it's people's house, but I highlighted all the kids. Five major points to bring forward. The student path graphics, which aren't in the civics lab, but help to create the experience and anticipation of that space, will be installed between now and when the civics lab is up and running. We're still nailing down the schedule on that. I don't know if Brian's on the call if he has an exact time frame for that yet, but it's coming up. All those graphics have been approved and selected. The quotes that are going on the wall, the different imagery, how the captions are made, those have all been developed. This room obviously will have graphics on all four walls, and then the two hallways on either side will have those graphics as well. The color palette and design style has been approved by the subcommittee, and those are being implemented across the physical and the digital components. So throughout the experience, whether you're on a screen or if you're looking at a graphic panel, it'll all feel like it belongs together. The furniture builds have been approved and they're actually in production at the DI shop right now. So furniture being built, wood is being cut, paint is being mixed, all that stuff is happening now. You'll start to see some of those builds because we have some samples of the micro interactives in the room for you to touch, feel, and see how those are working. The content, which is based on that, all the exhaustive work we did on the outline for the content, that's being written, and we actually working with a writer who's worked on a number of student textbooks, so she's very familiar with the genre and the audience. So those are being written. They're going under extensive review by the core team, in consultation with the Wyoming Education Department as well. And then once the core team has an approved content, we'll be sharing that with this committee for review. And then finally, the interactives themselves, the larger scale interactives are in. Yeah.
Could I just mention real quick, all of that outline is just being refined from your previously approved outline. So just to kind of catch everybody up, everything that Nigel's discussing has been based on pre-approval. So you will be seeing just an updated outline based on some tweaks in the room. It's not a new outline.
Yeah. So yes, thank you. Sorry. So you'll be reviewing those, and finally the interactives that we'll be talking about in depth, and Meg will help walk you through in the room itself. Those are in development as well, and going through review with the core team. So those are all the major components that will come together to create the Civics Lab experience. I think we might have figured out a way to share the stuff so we can get you the updates on the so let me share that.
1 minute.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to. Okay. Oh. Okay.
Yay.
There we go. Okay. Do you want me to pause so you can set this up?
No, I can just talk while it's running. This just shows you some of the features for the Historic Constitution portion of the app. Each portion of the app has, a different focus that you've all reviewed 12.5 times. So we have Historic Constitution, featured amendments, read and explore, compare and contrast. You can go to the next one. Featured amendments is next, on the next slide, Nigel.
I guess I did.
There we go. So it just shows you how a user can interact with this and toggle between like the main introductory text and then the associated articles that will have an excerpt from the article as well as a direct link to either the handwritten or the typed version of the Constitution, which are zoomable and you can change, turn the pages. And next one, Nigel, next slide. Reading Explorer is next. And the core team here can tell you how hard we all worked to make this user friendly and make it make sense to move from one page to the next and get back. Never in my life did I think I would be so deeply entrenched in back buttons. But it's really important when you get into these things to make it user friendly and to make sure that the visitor can easily navigate around. And then the last on the next slide is the compare and contrast. The next slide, Nigel.
Yeah, it's not like me.
What are you comparing and contrasting? Constitution compared to what?
Other constitutions. We have a feature in there that talks about the elected officials actually, and how that's unique to Wyoming. We have one that talks about the length of the Wyoming Constitution. Water law is another one in there that makes Wyoming unique. And again, these have all been reviewed by the subcommittee in file stage. And this is just like the final 100% version that we've all worked so hard to fine tune. And yeah, we'll be in the kiosk by September 17th. So we're really excited about that one. Tom and Kylie from Wyoming Historical did such a great job with this. Kylie has said that never did she think she'd be a constitutional historian, but she did a great job. And then obviously with the core team and subcommittee help, we were able to get it into a good place. We're really proud of this one.
Did you get into any of the debate letters and stuff that are out there
No,
in the Constitution?
no.
Oh yeah, getting into those are some ones that really kind of let you know what the people were actually thinking when they were writing it. And they're kind of interesting to read.
I bet that's fascinating. Great. Next we have the Capitol kiosk, unless anybody has questions about Constitution.
We do the top slides.
Oh, we may not have. Thank you, Nigel.
Yeah.
This one just takes every article that's within the activation, easy access, and it's just a direct link with highlights to the relative or related sections. So you can see how we kind of call those out for people who are interested in finding the specific article related to that topic. Again, the entire Constitution, both handwritten and typed, is available in the kiosk. So if somebody wants to sit and browse page by page by page, they can do that. Any questions about Constitution?
And a reminder that a kids focused version of this will show up in the civics lab as well.
We're excited about modifying this for children.
Just thinking about all the children who can't read cursive.
Yes.
So that it will be welcome, I'm sure.
Another 30 years, people will read cursive because it stimulates parts of your brain that they don't get stimulated.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't have video games that definitely would have stimulated parts of our brain.
For good or for worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so for Capitol Kiosk, this one is a work in progress. We're really close. Today, we want to just show you some 90% progress that we've made. A file stage review will be coming to the subcommittee mid-September. None of it will be surprising or new to you. A couple of things to note, the 5 elected official bios have been reviewed and approved by their respective offices. And so those have been fine-tuned and massaged into a really good place to make them a little more uniform. And thank you to Nathan for his work to coordinate that. And as for the legislator bios, those are currently feeding from your system. So there will be no changes there from the DI content end. And so, yeah, this is really, you've seen this before. This is just a refresher since you haven't seen it since the 60% of what you'll be expecting in that 90% review. So this is my favorite, and I think Rihanna's too. The Kids Capital Quest. It's really fun. It's very interactive. We have these really cool photos that encourage children to explore around the Capitol with really short blurbs that will maintain their attention, and intriguing photos. We tried to kind of zoom in on some of these things so that it was more like a seek and find. I actually got to see that hinge in person yesterday. Rick told me I was fangirling about the Capitol. Yeah, it's one thing
She's
to
very
see it on
excited.
screen and then another to see it in person. I was. Wendy was taking photos of me taking photos like a proud mom.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, as Christine noted, this was inspired by my own child who was in the Capitol, and he was at one of the kiosks and he's like, oh my gosh, Mom, look at this big iPad. He was like looking on the second floor on the kiosk and there was nothing for him to do. And so Wendy and I oftentimes were like, we need something for like littler, Where's Waldo of the Capitol. And so the DI team was very receptive. And so the content is organized by floor, and it's like a search and find where they could see the image, and then if they were to tap on the tile, then they can kind of read some descriptive knowledge. So definitely geared towards our younger visitors, and immersive throughout the entire Capitol, and there's kiosks throughout the entire Capitol, so that's really fantastic. So I do think it'll be a nice added benefit for younger visitors, and definitely highlights lots of fun features that Christina was getting to find in person yesterday,
Yes.
like the lion's paws on
Yes.
the benches.
Spotting them
Yeah.
left and right.
And Madam Chair, as this subcommittee has discussed several times, as a future scope that's been called package 5 or the collateral, that is where also a physical kids activity book that would be based on this content is contemplated, so that you'd be able to actually fill out how many places you found the fossils, so that they can use the kiosk to get started, but eventually if there's printed materials that go with it, they'll have a take-home piece.
And get like a stamp from a docent office, like a junior ranger, like the Park Service does. So this is fun, but yeah, definitely very enthusiastic for every parent out there.
I mean, I enjoyed it too, and I'm not a child, so I was like, oh, there's the red tie guy, and
Oh yeah,
Rihanna had to help me find him.
I was like, Christine, now it's time to find the red tie guy. I'm like, hot, cold, hot, cold.
Yeah.
You're getting hotter. You gotta keep going. So yeah.
I think that's gonna be the hardest one on there. Like, we tell them where, but I mean, there are a lot of components up there. Okay, next we have the points of interest, which has been a personal labor of love for myself. Oh, Dome Joan, sorry. Dome Joan has been a labor of love for Nigel. This is just, I mean, this is just very eye-catching. It's a very effective activation. I play with it all the time, remotely, and I really enjoy it. Another one where we've worked really hard on the navigation with help from the core team to orient ourselves. And it's a very effective, kind of like shiny, flashy feature of the Capitol kiosk. We have the 4 sisters here. And again, short pieces of content about these. We don't want people like standing at the kiosks. We've referred to these regularly as digital wayfinding almost. We want them to be intrigued and to see this and be like, I want to go see where this is in person. I think Representative Nicholas is getting the call.
His morning alarm. Should we answer it?
I'm
I'm
certainly
not going
to.
to. Yeah. Nobody from this side of the table.
Wipe up.
We can move on to points of interest now. Again, another digital wayfinding piece that points to exhibits throughout the Capitol. So not new content, just presented in a new format. And you've seen this before at the 60%. It looks at the exhibits on every level, but the kiosk where you're standing will have that card view with the points of interest that are closest. So you can access the entire list of the points of interest, but the kiosk you approach will have like that card view with those that are nearest.
And if you're interested in one in particular, there's an opportunity to click on something, it'll show you how to get there as well.
Yes, there's a find it in the Capitol feature and it will show you how to get there. And then the last one is find an official, which you'll see some familiar faces there. This is why I feel like I know all of you as I've reviewed your bios and seen your faces, and so that will include office information. It will map to offices. We list senators and representatives. We have a really nice district map. And we're also going to add a QR code for those who don't maybe know their district. They can enter their address and find their representatives, find their legislators. This was a labor of love for our development team, that district map, which I think turned out really pretty. There's a legislator search for both current and former members. It will map to their composites.
One thing I wish they had on that, on the LSO, I don't know whether you have it here, is that the contact information and the email and any phones or anything that's available, that I don't know whether they want to have that public, but it is public, you know, you just have to dig for it.
Yeah, I think for the legislators, we have their district addresses listed, and as well as phone numbers, emails,
Okay,
and then office locations, working office locations.
great, share that with the LSO. So it's all in one spot.
Madam Chair, Treasurer Meyer, that actually is on our website now and it feeds to this kiosk.
Okay, so.
That's what we're getting at.
But it might
Wow.
be easier to find here perhaps.
It might be updated.
Yeah, that's where we're getting all, most of our intel. So that's it for our remaining package 3 items. We're really excited about how far they've come from wireframes and outlines to where they are today. It's been pretty remarkable. And again, we thank you for your input that has fine-tuned them into these really nice activations that I think visitors are really gonna love.
Yeah.
Perhaps, yeah.
And thanks for your patience with our technical hurdles this morning as well. Did everybody get a chance to look at the Constitution replicas? Any questions about those?
I think so. They're all over here if anybody.
So our intent was to walk over to the civics lab, unless there's anything else we want to cover here before we do.
I guess in the Constitution, I get Article 1, I didn't see Article 2 that actually is kind of like Wyoming Bill of Rights. in Article 2, and that's something that if you've got room, it'd be nice to actually see, you know, maybe Article 2 of the Bill of Rights.
I apologize, I missed the first part of that.
Well, but in the Constitution, that, you know, this was the original, but we actually have a Bill of Rights in Article 2 that goes through, and in the short things, you know, it puts in the things about the corresponding Second Amendment and the takings clause and all of those things, but they're in basically Wyoming's language that kind of mirrors most of the, but not all of the federal ones, but I think the drafters were much more succinct and to the point in Wyoming's Constitution without all of the words that necessarily you know, are in the federal Constitution.
Right. One of our compare and contrast stories talks about how the Wyoming Constitution mirrors other constitutions that were written around the same time.
Right.
So I think we do touch on how it diverges, but also how it overlaps with other constitutions. But we don't have right now a deep dive that's looking at comparing individual article against individual article.
Yeah. And another thing that I've done recently is actually compare how each one of the rights are interrelated. That if you lose one, how does that affect the other rights?
The domino effect of
Yeah,
that.
and so property ownership is probably the one that goes across all of them, because if you can't own property, or are you going to worship? If you can't own property, you can't own a gun, you know, and so all of those different things, there's a lot of interaction between each one of them. And there's a great deal of thought that the founders put into it to make sure that everything was tied together. And the one that we really forget about, I think, is that all rights not reserved to the federal government are reserved to the states or the people. And we have had so much encroachment in the rights of the states and the states of the people by the federal government. So I guess that's, it's kind of like, I think what Charlie Scott always said, what's the Constitution among friends? You know, and it just, everybody's getting way too friendly at the federal level, is what I'd say.
And Madam Chair, Treasurer Meyer, I think this may also be a good part of the discussion for Civics Lab and how some of that is going to be changed from what's up in the historic Supreme Court. So as you may recall, in the historic Supreme Court, what it will feature is some of the unique provisions that are in Wyoming's Constitution, such as suffrage. And then you can flip through and find article by article in that activation.
Okay.
What is really neat about the way the Civics Lab is developing, and this might be a good intro, and then we can talk about what else we need to do before we go into that space. But what's really great is that room has truly, and you saw this in the approved outlines, is that room really centers on the Constitution and the first 5 articles for students. So there are some other articles that are featured up in the historic Supreme Court and the compare and contrast that won't be as relevant down here. But the way each wall is grounded is the center station that you'll see is going to be called Constitution Station. And the kid-friendly version of this activation will be there, but only on the first 5 articles. So then the first wall, Citizen Station, will focus on Article 1. And that includes all of those Bill of Rights provisions. And we have highlighted, and you will be receiving these again as the graphic review of what some of those are specifically that should be highlighted in that article. And then Article 2 is basically what divides the powers of government. And that's where we get into separation of powers. Article 3 is the legislature. Article 4 is the executive branch, and Article 5 is judicial. So what's great is on each wall, and Nigel will show you when we go into the room, and may have a slide on it, is the content writers are taking this language from the 1800s, and you haven't seen this yet, but you know, it reads kind of dry and dull, and do you really know what it means? And then it's going to reveal, hey, in plain English, in today's language, here's what this actually means. So it will actually go through all those in more detail in the
Yeah, I
Civics Lab.
understand it, but I'm looking at all of this cursive and the long paragraphs and looking at the age group, that they're the young age group, I think they would probably understand the shorter Bill of Rights paragraphs than they would understand this. So maybe flipping this into the area where where it's older age groups and looking at the short ones on the Bill of Rights where that are, you know, like 15 or 20 words rather than 400 words back to back to back. A 9-year-old is not gonna read that. They'll just see it as scribblings.
Yeah.
But if you got just the short ones on the Bill of Rights, I think those are more relevant to where somebody can, at that age, can, you know, understand 10 or 15 words,
Yeah.
you know.
And- Yeah, and Treasurer Meyer, they will get to see the original on screen, but what you'll see when we go into the Civics Lab is that it does just that. It'll actually say the words not in cursive, and then it'll show it to them on what it means for them. So I think you'll be happy with what DI has done with that complex language and how to make a kid approachable.
Only it's an automatic synonyms there because I looked at the education one. It says that no, it was on voting, that your rights could not be trammeled, you know, and I go, what is that? Okay, well, basically obstructed, you know, but yeah, I mean, that's old English, and you know, from the time, yeah.
Yeah,
You
that's
probably
exactly.
understood that, right, Nigel?
You know what trammeled was?
Oh, cookies old. No, it's my apologies. That's for sure. I apologize.
No, didn't get that part.
It actually doesn't use the word trammeled, it uses the word untrammeled.
Untrammeled, okay.
Even more
Yeah. Yeah. You should not be
What is the
trammeled.
opposite of something I don't-
to prevent an your exercise of the right of suffrage shall be untrimmed.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
But
Madam Chair, would
The
you
day-to-day
prefer?
English, I use it 3 times a week.
You just work it into your everyday conversation.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, would you prefer that we go through the full agenda and then our last stop is in the civics lab? Or do you want to take a recess and go into the civics lab and then come back?
What's everybody else's, desire? We do have plenty of time. Would we rather go ahead and do everything in here and then break? And go there and then not come back into order in this? Would that make sense for?
That's how we normally do it.
that
I could
kinda
do
would
it either
make
way.
sense Maybe for the online. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that since we're good on time.
Thanks, Madam Chair. And then DI, as we discussed yesterday, I think it would be helpful. We don't have anyone online currently, but people often go back and look at the slides after the meeting. So if there are any of those images that Nigel took that we discussed on the site walk, are any of those in this slide deck to briefly
Not
go?
in here since we are gonna be in their person, but we could also record video within the room so that people could, and add that to this.
Madam Chair, what we can do is just add it as a handout after the fact.
Okay, great. Perfect. Okay, so we're gonna pause on our physical tour of the civics lab. And then I think we are at the Capital Extension Gallery and Custodial Break Room build out update. Brandon.
So we are currently and have received 100% documents. There's a few things within the specifications that we're currently working with. And the third item that I'm waiting for on that is a cost estimate so that we can push forward. But document wise, we're 100% minus a few specification things. And I need that cost estimate so that we can push that forward and pull that together with the committee here. So it's busily being worked, and hopefully by the next committee meeting, we'll have a full picture of what all's going on here in the basement.
And sorry to ask them questions, but what are we missing in the gallery? What is still to be done there? What's coming?
So, Madam Chairman, the gallery work is removal of the chair rail and then patch and paint, track lighting, and then potentially the removal of the black tiles where the statues were,
Okay,
and then
gotcha.
replace it with the white.
And that's currently a bid alternate, depending on where we get on bid day with replacing that.
Oh, yes, and very, yes, and potential of vitrines and pedestals in the trees.
And then we've also got the custodial break rooms, or break rooms.
All right, then moving on to acoustics.
Acoustic update. So we do have 100% documents for that and specifications and cost estimates. We're currently working to secure a contractor to do a mock-up. Kind of the trick we're running into right now is the testing, pricing, the before test, and doing the work on the major maintenance portion for the, what am I trying to say? For the heating ventilation for the individual offices. And so we've got all that document. We're working on getting a price and getting that test pulled together.
I suggest you get all that under contract because you don't know what this particular group of legislators are gonna do, cause they're enamored with the, you know, the Doge concept where it's like, you know, Wyoming pretty much keeps to their budget and we haven't really increased it that much at all over the last decade. So,
Yep.
yeah, but you know, it's the way it is. So get it locked up, get them, you know, encumbered. And so we can't back out of our contract with huge penalties.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Understood. Wendy, did you want to add anything on the acoustic?
Madam Chair, thanks, Brandon. I think just as a reminder, that major maintenance portion Brandon can absolutely trigger because that's a separate funding pot. The other funding, as Brandon goes through that exercise for both sound reinforcement in the various areas as well as sound absorption on the walls. Most of that work will work to get it under contract, but some of it won't trigger till the spring, and we'll also need to come back to you with that MOU that this committee will manage those funds that are currently in Capital Square Preservation account that are dedicated for this purpose.
Mhm.
So we'll be coming to you hopefully a September meeting to start rolling on that when we have reviewed the final construction document. So it's kind of just a part and parcel. We'll keep bringing it to you to get everything under contract.
Nathan. Capital carrier update.
Madam Chair, my typical updates, a quick update on the capital curation policies. So those will be, I believe, on the October SBC agenda for introduction, and then taking them through SBC's process from there. But my big and exciting update for you today is I've been talking about this for the past 2 meetings, but the Capitol Gallery exhibits for the next few years, I have run that through the Museum Exhibit Committee and gotten their approval. So I wanted to share with you the next 5 years in the Capitol Gallery. So a quick overview. Currently, the exhibit that's out there is a traveling exhibit through the rock pile up in Gillette. It's called the Unquiet Utes. It's a photo exhibit that we've complemented with a few Ute artifacts from the museum's collection, which is something that we will do with all exhibits as necessary. Just kind of a quick vision of the recap for that space is that it is intended to bring Wyoming history and culture into the Capitol, and specifically into the Capitol Gallery. And to not have it be Cheyenne centric or state museum centric. And so, supplementing where we can, but really relying on the collections throughout the great state. And so the rock pile is a great example. I brought in the rock pile as a traveling exhibit with the thought of any work that would be happening over the fall and early winter in the gallery. It's easy to deinstall an exhibit that's intended to travel. And kind of deinstall and reinstall as necessary. But so that exhibit is slated to be up through mid-January, at which point we'll get the gallery ready for the 2026 Governor's Capital Art Exhibition. As most of you know, that's the biennial juried exhibition that celebrates the work of Wyoming artists. The call for that goes out on Wednesday and will be open through the 18th of October. And we're tying the 2026 GCAE into the 250th celebration. So really encouraging artists to take that into account when they select their up to 3 pieces that they can submit for consideration. I'm excited to announce that we have an agreement with the juror for that exhibition. Her name is Kate Lavin, and she's the curator of the Coors Western Art Exhibit and Sale down in Denver. So really excited about that. I didn't expect her to agree to it just because the timing of GCAE and the timing of the Coors Western is right on top of each other. But she's ecstatic and has a great history in Wyoming and a celebration of Western art. So I'm excited to see both the entries and first selections. We're finalizing the date with the governor's office right now for that reception. That will be in mid-February, right after session starts. Moving from the 2026 GCA, that will go February through early August. We'll then open an exhibit in collaboration with the Jim Gatchell Memorial Museum. That will take a civics focus. So we'll focus on civic responsibility and engagement of Jim Gatchell and his life and legacy. Really looking at their collection to tell the story of especially that part of Wyoming, but Wyoming in general. Key themes will be community, trails, military and forts, ranching, tribal relationships, and then of course Gatchell's military service, pharmacy and museum. That exhibit would be up through mid-March, which is hard to believe. That takes us through an inauguration and then session that year of 2027. Sorry, I should be using those dates. I've tried to set a cadence just from a curation perspective of going from a curated exhibit to more of a traveling exhibit, just to take the ease and strain off, massive exhibit rotations. So following the Gatchel exhibit, March through August of 27, looking at, or I've booked a traveling exhibit through Fort Casper Museum, Hollywood in Wyoming. That's one of their traveling exhibits that they've created. This one explores Hollywood's fascination with Wyoming, includes a list of movies with scenes filmed here between 1904 and 2019, and features reproductions of 29 movie posters. So that will be up during Frontier Days. I think that'll be a popular exhibit during that time. That would be followed up end of August of 2027 through end of January 2028, with an exhibit that celebrates archaeology across the state, looking at a collaboration with State Historic Preservation Office of the State Archaeologist, and sites, museums, and collections across the state. Archaeology Awareness Month has been celebrated in Wyoming through posters since 1990. Those posters are incredibly popular and focus on archaeology truly across the state, featuring artifacts, photography, artwork. And so looking at using the gallery to celebrate Archaeology Awareness Month and bring those posters together in a formal exhibition, and then bringing in artifacts from across the state to celebrate archaeology. Then we roll into the 2028 Governor's Capital Art Exhibition from February through August of 28. Hard to say who will be our juror for that one. Excited to start looking at options. From that end of August 28 through end of March of 2029, this will be a statewide exhibit. So October 3rd of 2028 will mark the 135th anniversary of the Gallagher Survey Tree, the Gallagher Survey, as they worked to survey for the Yellowstone Park Timber Land Reserve and the establishment of the nation's first national forest. And on that date in October, they were snowed in essentially in the thoroughfare and carved their name into this massive tree. And just a pivotal moment just in looking at kind of history of the West, history of forest reserves, parks, etc. And there was during last session an effort to have that tree preserved. That effort continues, and no major updates. The state is working with the Forest Service and others exploring possibilities with that. Regardless of whether the tree will be here or not, this exhibit I have plans to explore that history and to really bring in engineering, surveying. We can expand and use kind of the different wings of the gallery to explore lots there, to work with state forestry, to lots of great potential partners. So some excitement in that regard. April through October of 2029, looking at the anniversary of Wyoming Territory, the 160th anniversary of Territory. So looking at an exhibit that celebrates Wyoming's designation as a territory through an exploration of its original 5 counties through its current 23. My goal with this one, and I'm going to start working on this one pretty quickly, featuring maps from state archives, but then working with museum institutions in each county so that we have a representative artifact and piece of artwork, either photograph or art, from every county. And so I'm going to start working on that one pretty quickly. Just that's going to be labor intensive to get those institutions able to find something from their collection that they're willing to put on exhibit in the Capitol. Vitrines and pedestals are going to be significant in that regard. But an exciting story, and people love maps, and there's so many amazing maps of the change of counties in Wyoming over the years. October 2029 through January 2030, that is going to be a focus on equality. that would commemorate the 160th anniversary of the passage of women's suffrage in Wyoming Territory. So kind of looking at a collaborative exhibit in that regard, I currently have a traveling exhibit from the American Heritage Center reserved that explores Nellie Taylor Ross, Tyra Thompson, and Elizabeth Byrd. But looking at supplementing that with additional content from potentially the Wyoming Women's History House, Kylie, and we haven't talked about this, but Lindsay, the photographer Women in Wyoming exhibit, I think has some great potential to tie into that as well. So that haven't talked to Lindsay about that potential, but lots of exciting to bring the past and the present together. And then the last official one that I've got on my list, February through August of 2030, would be the 2030 Governor's Capital Art Exhibition. Looking beyond that, little teaser, August 2030 through March of 2031, looking at a possible collaboration between the Buffalo Bill Center of the West and Heart Mountain Interpretive Center for a traveling exhibit that they would be curating in those two locations. So we would be the third host location, but lots to be determined there and finalized. So as you can see, quite a variety, both from working with sole institutions to multiple institutions based on their collections. But with that, I would take any questions and I'll keep scheduling out. My office is covered in my calendar of installation and deinstallation and fitting in.
So
Any
we can
patches.
check finding enough things to put in the Capitol Gallery off of our problem list.
That's my goal.
Madam Chairman,
Go ahead.
I ran into an individual up in Jackson here a week ago, and he does a lot of work on that area and how Idaho and the other states and the Yellowstone Park and all of that. And he has some interesting things. He was a cab driver. I couldn't get out of his cab. He talked to me for a half hour, but the guy's got some really interesting things. I'll try to get you in touch with him. He's trying to write a book. I think he had a couple of questions that I could answer about, the 1880s and 1890s or something in there where, or, like, I think at one time there's both Idaho and Wyoming was, had to have claimed part of that area up there around Yellowstone. So, didn't know exactly how that worked, but, a good wealth of information. I think it's his lifelong passion, so he knows probably a lot of things that some people don't know. So I'll get you in touch with him.
Great, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, with that, we will move into public comment. Any public comment?
Oh,
Mr.
back in the
Garrett.
back, yeah, okay.
On behalf of the public. Richard Garrett, and just really quickly, two things. Nathan's update was shared with Travel, Recreation and Wildlife Committee last week. And they welcomed that update, and I think we're really impressed with the work. And Senator Landon, who chairs that committee on the Senate side, praised the work of this subcommittee. And then Representative Harshman, who also serves on TRW, remarked how remarkable all of the exhibits and signage and wayfinding is in this beautiful capital, also praising the work of this subcommittee and the contractor. So your story is being shared widely, and I congratulate you for that. And then secondly, I want to affirm Treasurer Myers' trust and experience with JB Weld. It's an awesome product. I put it on the block of my tractor and I got over 500 hours.
Oh, there you go, yeah. We'll have to see if we could get some royalties off of our.
We're
Not a paid
influencers.
advertisement. Thank you. Okay, before we end here and head over to the Civics Lab, just a confirmation that our upcoming meetings that should already be on everybody's calendars, Janice sent those out, are September 24th, October 22nd, and November 18th. So if you can't make any of those, I would say let Brianna or someone know as soon as possible.
On the 250th thing too, I also ran into a guy that does bronze sculptures and he wants to do one for the 250th. So I'll get you his information. So, and I did introduce him to one of the governor's aides, up at Jackson. So, he's got a picture of him with this huge bronze sculpture of Trump going like this, you know, and with Trump in front of it. So, but he wants to do a 250th bronze, and he's got a mock-up for anything that you guys would think would be, you know, a reasonable thing that might be included in this area. You know, we've got somebody that can do it.
Great. Okay, anything else for the good of the order before we head over to the Civics Lab, which I think we've all been eagerly awaiting?
I want to thank you for not bringing donuts today.
You're welcome.
Okay.
All right, I'll consider a pseudo adjourn.
Can we leave that?
Yeah, I'm going to.
Okay.
So if everybody wants to take a quick 5-minute break and then we'll reconvene over to the.
Thank you. I actually got a